I'm here with Peter Webb this morning. Peter may well be known to certainly those readers of the likes of Shares magazine, where, Peter, you do a column pretty well every week.
That's correct.
Which explains all sorts of things, from quite diverse topics right down to how to read a balance sheet and so on, is one of your most recent articles. But Peter has been an investor for a good many years, and is going to talk a little to us this morning about his story, about how he went from sort of ordinary life to become an investor, and has moved on to several other things. So, Peter, how did things get started for you in this whole world of trading, investing, stock markets, and so on?
Well, it's quite a long and convoluted story, but we'll go back to where everything began. And it was all my dad's fault. My father gave me a football pools coupon many years ago, and he was panicking about getting the football pools coupon in, and I said to him, well, what's this? And I was about this tall and young and impressionable, so my dad thought he'd get me into gambling immediately. But he gave me the football pools coupon and said, you know, you basically write in 8 crosses and then you send it off and you win £1 million. And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe I'll pursue a career doing this. But of course, it was much more difficult than he initially implied. But it was that that got me in this very long path to investing. And it was through doing the football pools that I learned a lot about gambling markets. And the conclusion which everybody should make generally about gambling is obviously that it's for a bit of fun, and you can win money, but I learned very quickly that it was generally the bookmakers that won money, and that if you're gambling, it's a one-way road.
Well, good. I'm glad that message came home fairly early on.
Absolutely. And it was that made me think, well, okay, maybe I followed the wrong path here, but I obviously had an entire career ahead of me. But it was then that I started looking towards the stock market. Somebody once said to me, oh, the stock market's the biggest casino of the lot.
Yeah.
And through doing the football pools, I'd started learning about various other types of gambling. But I looked at the stock market and I thought, well, hold on a second, here's a game rather than something that's stacked against you permanently. It's something that works for you. There is a method, a process, there's a means to an end, and you are taking on risk, but it's some sort of measured risk that you're taking that allows you to participate in the market, and in return for that risk you would get rewarded.
Sure. And of course the big difference with a bookmaker in the stock market, they're not going to send you out if you make lots of money from them.
You learn all sorts of interesting things about the gambling industry, and you also learned that it was inherently unfair, and even if you were able to find an edge somewhere in the market, then even the system would work against you. Even if the maths wouldn't work for you, the system wouldn't work for you either. And the stock market seemed a much more appropriate place to be able to take on risk, but to have a fair chance of making a decent reward from it. So from my early career, I suppose, looking at gambling markets led me almost instinctively and immediately on to the stock market, where I felt that you were taking on risk, but you were going to get rewarded for that risk, not punished for taking on that risk.
Right, okay.
So that was the path that I followed almost immediately, and that was an area that interests me tremendously, and I think the core to all of it was numbers. The thing that
that's sort of a theme throughout your sort of life, is it?
It has been, almost by accident, because I never had a strong academic background, and my parents weren't strong academically either, and had fairly ordinary jobs. But for some reason I had this affinity with numbers fairly early on, and I think the prospect of making a living by playing with numbers has always been appealing.
Absolutely.
Whichever form it comes in. So that's what led me down that path. And the first time I picked up a Financial Times or an Investor's Chronicle with any level of really serious interest was in 1985. And I just remember, I've still got the original copies.
Oh, really?
I have, yeah. They're in the loft. I've always been a bit of an archivist, a record keeper. And I picked up the first copy of it, and I just thought, okay, I'm really going to get into this. It's a shame Click Events weren't around back in 1985. But I picked up the Investor's Chronicle and I looked at it, and I just thought, I just do not understand a single thing in this entire magazine. I don't know why I'm buying it, and it's very expensive, but I feel the instinctive need to learn a bit more about this market. So I gradually over the years progressed from reading it and not understanding it to reading it and understanding it, to thinking about what's going to be in it, and then eventually many years later to actually ending up writing for the magazines themselves.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a fulfilling experience.
Well. I mean, a good many people tell me that they get hooked on, and in fact, I think what probably hooked me on trading were charts themselves. I found an affinity with looking at charts and patterns, etc. And that was probably the thing that originally captivated me. But that wasn't the case for you.
Well, it's curious actually, because when I first, I'd approached it from a numbers perspective. When I was messing around on the football balls, and my dad said to me, you know, fill out 10 numbers, and if you get 8 of them, you win £1 million. I thought, well, there must be a better way of finding those 10 numbers out of the 49 to 58 numbers that are on the coupon. So when I turned to the stock market, my instinct was immediately to look at the pricing and look for market inefficiencies. That was the way, you know, that was where I instinctively started. And but the problem that I found when I was looking at the charts was I kept thinking, well, which way is it going to go, and why is it going that way? And the problem that I had was that it wasn't really telling me anything. I went off and I did daft things like look at the black skulls equation.
Oh yeah.
And you know, but it was saying, oh, you know, within this wide range of about the entire price of the share is where it will end up in 3 months' time. And I was thinking, well, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Gives me some guidance, but not much more than I've got now with my